Daniel Jones off the mountain, Russ, Will Levis, Bryce Young, and Bo Nix. All of those people were already off, or they were bottom row guys, so their performance slid them off. And you might say, Nick.
Well, wait a second. Real fast, let's jump in right off the bat on this. Okay, well, if Deshaun Watson is not even on the mountain, that means, I don't know, was that Cowboys victory that impressive against a quarterback that is clearly not even good enough to be on the mountain? Jordan Love, he's injured. I get it. He would definitely still be on the thing. But also, how is Bo Nix going to be off the mountain, but then also not Caleb Williams? I'm sorry, but that makes no sense. That makes no sense. In fact, I would say Bo Nix looked better than Caleb. He actually was able to move around in the pocket and escape. He actually escaped and went on some runs. Like, he didn't take that 19-yard sack. I understand the turnovers and all of that, and I'm not trying to get in a whole debate between Bo Nix versus Caleb Williams. I'm high on both those quarterbacks, but let's be serious here. Caleb Williams was at home on a sunny, beautiful day with his fans behind him going against the Tennessee Titans. Bo Nix had to go on the road, Seattle, one of the loudest, most hostile stadiums. And again, I'm not telling you that Bo Nix played unbelievable and was great, but if he's off the mountain, Caleb Williams needs to be off the mountain too. That's really the main point. Just saying.
So are we still even going to have 28 people on the mountain? We are. Row 7. Shout out Sam Darnold for making it on the mountain. Shout out Jacoby Brissett for making it on the mountain. Shout out Justin Fields for making it on the mountain. And shout out Jameis Winston and Drew Lock for getting on the mountain because they should be starting for their teams. This is only 4 starting quarterbacks, or in these cases, 2 guys who will be and should be starting quarterbacks for the Browns and the Giants. Jaden and Gardner stay where they're at. Row 6, listen. Kyler, some good and some bad. He stays where he is. Gino, one bad pick. Other than that, I thought he played well, but he stays where he is. Rodgers has to slide. Wilds, how many games without throwing 300?
24 games.
24 games, 1,003 days. Tom Brady has 2 400-yard games since Aaron Rodgers has 1 300-yard game, and Tom Brady's been retired for 2 seasons. Derek Carr moves up. Derek Carr, mountain historian, checking in. First time not on the bottom row or off the mountain since week 10 last year.
Wow.
Look at Derek Carr.
Nice guy.
And then Kirk Cousins and Jalen Hurts both have to slide a row given their performance last week. To row 5, one of my favorite rows. Brock Purdy. Look at Brock Purdy.
Look at Brock Purdy.
What do you mean? He moved.
Look at this, right? Brock Purdy and Goff on the same row as Caleb or the Prince, right? Brock Purdy played nearly a flawless game. That makes no sense to me. Rodgers does not deserve. Rodgers played really well. I'm not saying the offense looked great or that the Jets looked great, but it wasn't like Rodgers didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't Rodgers' fault that there were some drop passes. It wasn't Rodgers' fault that they couldn't establish the run game and get anything going. That interception wasn't Aaron Rodgers' fault. Aaron Rodgers had nothing but beautifully thrown balls. I mean, you want to say that they can't be as imaginative with him because he isn't as mobile or whatnot. I don't buy that. I mean, Rodgers looked, honestly, to me, and I'm not going any deeper than this, he just looked great. He just threw the ball so effortlessly, so accurately. He didn't do anything wrong. I mean, I do not blame him. So him sliding down, him now below Caleb Williams. And again, I want to be very, 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 very clear. I've been thinking about this now over a few days. The way how I'm judging this mountain has nothing, because this is the way how they say it's supposed to be. It's just this season. I don't care about anything that's happened in the past. This has nothing to do about what happens in the past, what happened in the playoffs, what's going on. Nothing to do with that. This is like if you hit the reset button and these are all brand new quarterbacks. I'm looking at it as in these are all brand new quarterbacks. I don't know anything about them. How would I rank them? If I just saw all these quarterbacks for the very first time, who do I think is a better quarterback? In no way do I watch this game and look at it and watch all the games and say, oh yeah, Carr is on the same level as Cousins. Hurts is on the same level as Geno Smith. The Prince is above Jalen Hurts and Derek Carr and on the same level as Caleb. Like, there's just no way. There's absolutely zero way. And it has to actually be fluid. Otherwise, if it wasn't so dependent upon this season, week to week, it wouldn't change. If it was always using the resumes in the past, it would essentially just be the same list every single time. So we know it's not. And we know it's always tough because it's like we've been talking about this now for months, all last year as well. Like, what is the actual criteria that Nick is using? He claims it's this season, but then we'll talk about previous things. So it's hard to grasp. So for me, when I share my opinion, I am strictly talking about this season. I don't care what Dak Prescott did in the playoffs last year or 2 years ago. I'm not considering it. I'm just talking about this year. That's my rant, and I'll probably have to say that in every single Mahomes Mountain video that I do.
He's now knocking on the door of the top 10. This is the guys 11 to 15. I don't know. Mike Sando's 50 NFL execs ranked him 12th. It looks like the Mountain might have a little same or more respect for him.
It doesn't go.
Jared Goff stays. I understand.
Right?
No, it doesn't. I said might. Anthony Richardson out here just throwing 9 completions for 210 yards. I love it.
Hit or miss.
And then, listen, the Mountain is fair. The Mountain can be cruel. The Prince slides 1 row. Caleb, with the biggest slide of anyone this week, slides 2 full rows on the Mountain, despite not turning the ball over, getting a win, and a key 2-point conversion that doesn't show up in any stat sheets except but well, listen, it does, but it doesn't count for some reason. It's like an in-season tournament championship or a play-in. I'm just telling you, it literally, you look it up, you're like, hey, I saw Caleb throw a pass, be caught in the end zone. Why isn't that box score? 2-point conversion doesn't count for some reason. All right, row 4, Big Show.
Let's go.
3rd time ever in the top 10 on the Mountain. Good for him. Tua has to move up. He leads the league in passing yards again. And I almost moved Lamar down.
Wow.
But the fear of Wild's ire and the board, and Lamar sending another one of those pictures of that monkey with the giant nose in response to me, I couldn't deal with it. That's really caught on the internet. It's not nice, America. Row 3, Stroud stays where he is, and I almost moved him up 1. But you'll see who's above him, and I just couldn't find a place for him. Joe Burrow's got to slide.
Right. Because Dak Prescott played better than Lamar Jackson, CJ, and is on the same level as Joe Burrow and CJ Stroud. Now, to be consistent, Joe Burrow deserves to be lowered because he did not play good, right? CJ Stroud played great. What CJ Stroud did against the Texans, incredibly impressive. So no, I do not put him on the same level as Dak. I do not put Dak above what Brock Purdy did. I mean, that's absolute insanity to me. That really is. I mean, like I can't even fathom that. And quite frankly, Baker Mayfield looked better than Dak this week. Again, let's be very clear. I'm going to say it again. I'll have to say it a couple more times in this video. I'm just talking about this season and this season's performance. Nothing else.
You could argue his slide should have been as precipitous as Caleb's. He, of course, actually did lose.
Yeah.
And didn't have much more production than Caleb. But Burrow has a slightly larger body of work as a pro than Caleb, so he has a little more margin of error. And then Dak Prescott moved up.
Yeah.
I didn't think Dak made a mistake. I thought you're in a tough environment against a great defensive line.
What do you mean Dak didn't make a mistake? He had like multiple turnover-worthy plays. Even Tom Brady pointed it out. So those are mistakes just because they didn't pay for it. He had an under 60% completion percentage. I feel like I have this written down somewhere. I don't even know where it is anymore. Can we stop with this idea that Dak played this like amazing game? Because it's just not accurate. I mean, it's just not. Like, what are we talking about? Like, it just doesn't make sense. If you watch those games and think that Dak played on the same level as CJ Stroud, I just don't know what to tell you. If you watch that game and think that Dak played a flawless game, I just don't know what you're talking about. If you're telling me that Dak played better than Brock Purdy did, I just don't know what you are talking about.
Added pressure of not only signing that contract, but that sweet blazer he was wearing walking in, he performed. And now to the top 3. Row 2. Josh Allen stays where he is, and Matt Stafford moves up. Man, Puka's out. You're on your 3rd string left tackle. You lose Steve Avila. You're holding it together with scotch tape, and you lead a 14-point comeback on the road against a team a lot of people think is going to the Super Bowl. You once again just can't quite get it done against the Detroit Lions, but I thought Stafford was brilliant. And then, of course, a little anticlimactic, Patrick Mahomes stays atop his namesake mountain.
No, Patrick Mahomes was not the best quarterback starting week 1. He just wasn't. Do I think Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL right now? Most definitely. Do I think that he was the best quarterback week 1? No, he was not. If we hit the reset button, we had no idea who Mahomes was, none of these accomplishments, you are going to pick Josh Allen number 1. What Josh Allen had to do to carry the Bills to victory was just unbelievable. The moves that he was making, how physical and ferocious he was, leaping over players. It was transcendent. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Patrick Mahomes had like a little dump off pass or a swing pass, I forget exactly how it unfolded, to Worthy, who then just sprinted and did all the work. Patrick Mahomes was throwing to wide open wide receivers schemed by Andy Reid. And one of those passes to Worthy, to a wide open Worthy, who then just got to walk it in. Again, Patrick Mahomes is unbelievable. I am not saying Patrick Mahomes is garbage. Patrick Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks to ever play in the NFL. He is him. He is undeniable. I am just talking about week 1 today. Nothing that Patrick Mahomes has done in the past is going into this opinion. If it did, then this would be a boring segment. It wouldn't make sense to do it. The fun of it is we're talking about this season. This season, nothing else. That's the way I'm going about it. So yeah, Allen deserves to be at the top. Then it's like a toss-up, man, between Stroud. I wanted to do this beforehand and write it down so I don't mess up. Then I'm thinking I would put Stroud, Stafford, and Allen. But it's if we're following the mountain where it could only be the 1, 2, 3, if we're doing it that way, then I would put Allen at the top, Mahomes. I think I misspoke just a second ago. It would be Allen at the top, and then it would be Mahomes, Stroud, and then I would put Stafford. Then I would put Stafford, and then it's really tough ones, because this is where it gets hard, because I'm saying I'm only talking about this season. And it's like, well, then Derek Carr deserves to be way up there. Baker Mayfield up there, right? Like Herbert, as elite as I think he is, like he only did so much. And Lamar, it's hard, like I'm so much of my opinion that I've shared so far this season about Lamar is based off of all the things that he's done in the past. But if I only saw Lamar once, I would say, yeah, he missed a couple throws, but my God, is he electric running the ball? So you would have to feel that you have to put him up there. That's why it's an imperfect system to figure out. But I am not putting Dak Prescott, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, right, top 5. I mean, like, that's insane to me. They're top 6, I guess, technically. Like, that's absurd. Burrow does deserve to be dropped. And again, I think Burrow is an elite thrower of the ball, an elite quarterback. But it's just, he didn't do anything. He just didn't. I'm putting Purdy up there. Caleb deserves to be at the bottom of the mountain or off the mountain, if that's the way we're doing it, because there's no way that that Caleb deserves to be up there, but Bo Nix does not. And Jaden Daniels absolutely played better than Caleb Williams. So Caleb Williams deserves to be ahead, or Jaden Daniels deserves to be ahead of Caleb Williams. He just does. If you didn't know anything about these players and you had no idea where they were drafted, and you said which quarterback looked better, you would say Jaden looked better. If you just looked at the box score, you could say. If you don't even know what a box score is, and you don't know what a completion percentage is, and you didn't know that's how you evaluated football, and you just looked at how these players played and how they looked, you would say, oh yeah, Jaden looked better. He's a better quarterback, I assume, right? That's what you would say. So it just doesn't make sense. That's really how I'm trying to go about this. I'm trying to actually do more the eye test than anything. I was experimenting with having my own mountain, calling it like my mom's mountain or something like that. I would be skeptical of putting that out there, because who knows how people would twist it. But like this idea of just like, you don't know anything about football, and you've never watched any other games, and you're just watching it week to week to week, and that's how you're evaluating where these quarterbacks go, right? You don't know anything about any accomplishments, MVPs, what the stats say, this or that. You're just like, who looked better, who played better, who faced tougher defenses, who had to do more for their team, and whatnot. So yeah, I'm curious to see what these other guys have to say, because again, like if it is based off this season, like Derek Carr has to be up. And again, I know Rodgers didn't win and his numbers weren't pretty and they didn't win and he didn't put up 1,000,000 points, but like you watch Aaron Rodgers drop back and throw the ball, I mean, you can tell why he is great, why he is an all-time great. I mean, he just throws one of the most beautiful balls I've ever seen. And he is not on the level, even at 39, 40 years old, as Geno Smith. He's just not. He's just not. And you're not going to tell me that Hurts played worse than Caleb Williams. Like, what are we talking about here? He didn't play worse than Joe Burrow. Like, what are we talking about?
After last week, Greg, you weren't here. Coach Mangini ripped the mountain apart, and these guys, like jackals on the hill, were just hooting and hollering, rooting for him. This week's mountain is beyond reproach. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not going to rip the mountain apart. I will say Matthew Stafford played a heck of a game. I thought he had one of the better days. And my guy, Baker.
Wow.
Your guy.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Baker because I don't know how many times we're going to have this moment to be able to talk about Baker. Baker had one of the best performances of week 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
If not the best performance out of all the quarterbacks of week 1. And if Baker were someone else, or if he had made it work in Cleveland and had not fallen off from good graces and gone into Carolina and made it work, and now all of a sudden is on his revised contract and last leg, if you will, making it work down in Tampa Bay with the Buccaneers, I think Baker will be getting more credit than he's been given. Baker Mayfield, in my opinion, and you're going to say the mountain is not left or right, he would be above Herbert for me. With what he was able to do off of last season into the playoffs, literally took the Detroit Lions to the brink, could have won that game, fell short not because of his performance, rolled right into this season and took off right where he left off. Baker Mayfield, you have been impressive, my friend. I'm going to give you your flowers right now. I don't know how much elite quarterback play you're going to have for the remainder of the season, but right now, you're playing like an elite quarterback, my friend.
And Greg,
I think it's totally fair to say that all about Baker Mayfield, where, again, to be consistent with, if you didn't know anything about anything, like you would say Baker Mayfield was like a top quarterback in the NFL. You would say, oh my God, he played amazing. Now, again, like I've said in previous videos, I think you have to figure out who the heck the Washington Commanders are and what they look like. And again, this is why these mountains, these rankings, mountains, whatever we want to call them, tiers, is always so difficult in week 1 because we have such limited information. We just do. Because also, like I said, if we're really using their whole resume, their career as a whole, then you're not putting Caleb up there. Right? Like, you're not putting Caleb on the same as Purdy. That wouldn't make sense. And you're not putting Dak on the same level as Stroud or Burrow. It wouldn't make sense. So we know it has to be this season, right? It has to be this season. But it just seems like it's this season when I want it to be and previous years when I want it to be. Because if it was just this season, you're not saying that Patrick Mahomes played the best. You're not. You're saying he's a top quarterback, but you're not saying that he's number 1. And you would theoretically put Baker higher up there. Baker would replace Burrow. He would be above Dak. I don't think he would be above Stroud, Stafford, Allen, or Mahomes, specifically because also of the teams that Baker played. You know, he played the second worst. He played the second worst team from last year. So to me, it might be a little bit a bridge too far. But just interesting.
Sour there.
I mean, his last 7 games, averaging around 300 yards, a 105 or 107 something quarterback rating. Listen, I agree with you entirely. As you very well do know, the mountain isn't left to right, so he's not ahead or behind Justin Herbert. They're just next to each other because it has to, there has to be some order. Were you going to say something, Brew?
No, I'm ready
okay.
to rock and roll.
No, Brew's just excited. Brew's champing at the bit, as they say. Brew, go right ahead, because I agree with you on Baker. He could never be too high.
I'm not focused on this guy, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. Caleb should be lower. I mean, he just
How
wasn't
far
good.
do you want him to slide?
Like, probably that last row. I mean, just now he can move up, but he was bad. All right, last row. I'm going to focus on Brock Purdy, though. I want Purdy to move up and Dak to move down. Wow. Because Brock Purdy has beaten Dak Prescott in the playoffs. Brock Purdy, in his short year-and-a-half career, has gone to 2 NFC championship games, 1 Super Bowl, which Dak Prescott, of course, has never done. In his 8 previous seasons, he's only won 2 playoff games. Purdy won 2 of those in his rookie year last year. So Purdy should have been higher. But then week 1, this is what happened. Let's look at the numbers. Purdy has a better passer rating. Purdy has more yards he throws for.
Thank
Yards
you.
per attempt is
Thank
a
you.
significant difference. Completion percentage as well.
See, please stop you guys telling me that I'm just being a Dak Prescott or a Dallas Cowboys hater, because I'm really not. I'm not saying that Dak Prescott is trash. I'm not saying he's garbage. I said he should get paid, and it was, probably the appropriate move. I wish he took less money, but it was the right move for the Dallas Cowboys. But, like, please tell me how this is top 6, top 5 quarterback. 179 yards, 5.6 yards per attempt, under 60% completion percentage. He could have had multiple interceptions. And those matter. These could-haves matter. It's what Pro Football Focus does. It's just oftentimes sheer luck that something doesn't end up as an interception or a turnover. That's why Pro Football Focus uses it as a legitimate metric, because it does matter. Better believe if I'm trying to make it to the NFL and I'm throwing all these passes, and every single game, at least 5 of my passes should have been interception, but I got, the high heavens on my back and they just always drop them. Scouts look at that and say, well, that could have been an interception. He got lucky there. That's what when they evaluate it. They're like, he throws a lot of balls that could be intercepted. They're not just like, well, he doesn't throw interceptions. It's not the way it works. That's why you look at the film and you look at the numbers. You actually watch the game. So what Dak Prescott did against the Browns was just not impressive to me. Did he have moments where he made some really nice throws? Yeah, of course. Dak Prescott is not a bottom 5 quarterback. He's not a trash quarterback. And I've never said he was. He is a really, really good quarterback who can play great at moments and very tinily, very inconsistently be, I want to say, even have elite moments, but it's like 1 out of 10 moments, 1 out of 10 games can he play elite. Just way too consistent to ever even consider him elite. And so it's just like, I don't understand the obsession. And I know why Nick does it, because those Dallas Cowboys fans, man, if you got them on your side, that's just millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of people behind you. So I get it, but you're not going to watch those 2 games. You're not going to watch the 49ers and the Cowboys play and say that Dak Prescott played better than Brock Purdy. You're just not going to do it. You're just not. The eye test doesn't show it. The film doesn't show it. The stats don't show it. It just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. It really doesn't.
And Dak did have 1 touchdown. But Purdy also, Nick, had 4 passes, completions of 20 or more air yards, 1 completion of 30 or more air yards. Dak only had 2 of 20 or more and 1 of 30 or more. So Purdy came in with more credentials and then was better in week 1. So I think he should be higher than Dak.
Listen, I thought Purdy played well yesterday. I don't think he was better in week 1. I think Dak's numbers are some of the more misleading numbers of the weekend, because when they started the game and when it was a close game, he did whatever.
I had to interrupt Professor too. I'm pretty sure Pro Football Focus has had Purdy as the best quarterback of week 1, by the way. Just so you're saying. And they use the stats, obviously, but I think it's more than that. I don't think they just live and die by the stats. If I'm wrong on that, let me know. Maybe that is just 100% stat driven, but I'm under the impression that it's heavily stat driven, obviously, like advanced analytics, as well as like we're actually like looking at the film.
They wanted to move the ball down the field, and then once they were up multiple scores and it was very clear Cleveland was not starting an NFL caliber quarterback, and they pulled everything back.
Oh my
and got
God!
uber
Get
conservative.
out of here with that
as
nonsense.
As far as what you're saying that they should have started the year in different places, Brew, you throw MVP race in front of me all the time as far as how they should have started the year, about how Purdy came in 4th. Dak Prescott did come in 2nd in that, but I am also most curious about this. You want Purdy and Dak to flip-flop is what you're saying?
Not so much that. I'm just saying I think Purdy should move up. I still would probably have Lamar next to Burrow, but Purdy up, up.
Purdy up
Dak
1,
down.
and then, okay, all right. Well, I was going to say you're going to have Purdy ahead of Lamar.
I know you were going to.
You avoided that bear trap. So well done. KW?
We're giving Joe Burrow a grace that we give to no other excellent quarterback.
True.
Because why? He got hurt at the end of last year and hurt at the beginning of the year, but he had a little period where he was excellent and reminded you of the Joe Burrow that was in the Super Bowl. This Sunday, Joe Burrow was terrible, just like he is at the beginning of most of the seasons that he plays. Here is the worst records in weeks 1 and 2, because it's a rich tapestry. It's a little bit looking back, a little bit looking forward. Joe Burrow is 1-8. lost to the Patriots, and now he's got the Chiefs.
Two great quarterbacks
on
that graphic.
Okay. Now he's got the Chiefs with extra rest. He's got to go into Arrowhead. Maybe he does this Joe Burrow thing and pulls off a miracle against Mahomes. Maybe he starts the season 0-2, and this graphic says 1-9. Say, well,
dirty pool.
What?
You did minimum 7 starts, even though Burrow has 9, and everyone else has 9, just to get Trevor on the graphic. I know what you and Josh are looking up.
I don't.
They did that. They did it just to get Trevor on the graphic.
I want to bang on Trevor.
It would have even been more telling. It would have been more telling.
That is a pure Burrow graphic.
Everyone else has 9, minimum 7.
No, that's what it is.
Go ahead.
In any event.
Then Joe Burrow just didn't look like himself. At the beginning of last year, the calf hurt, so he couldn't throw the ball deep. He was one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. He said, no big deal. It's the calf. Well, he didn't throw the ball deep against the Patriots either. Now, maybe the Patriots' defense is just way better than everyone gives them credit for. I buy some of that. But just emotionally, there was no fear in my heart of Joe Burrow inflicting any damage on us. And they're like, well, here's the other excuse. T wasn't there. T's got his hamstring. Well, he's usually okay without him, but he wasn't okay against the Patriots. And again, maybe this is just a very pro-Patriots segment, but if it was, I would probably be like, it's all Patriots. I'm telling you, Joe Burrow does not look the same, and there was enough is his wrist okay talk during the broadcast that makes me think something is up.
All right, well, the thing is I don't want to get too lost in whether or not Burrow's injured or not. Or if he's fully recovered, but at the same time, then Wild's graphic actually kind of does him a disservice because clearly he's played really well, but just doesn't play well in the first couple of weeks. But like, for multiple years, he was coming back from injuries, right? Like one of it was it like a liver injury the one year he had, or some sort of like an appendix, burst. I forget. Like I feel like it was like some sort of like internal organ that he was like recovering from, as well as like knee issues and then calf. Like, so he's like never really been healthy going into weeks 1 and 2. So I think it's a little bit more misleading. And again, this is what now Wild said though, where it's like a little bit from the past is right. It's a rich tapestry. So if you made it this long in this video, and I assume that the real OGs have made it this long in this video, so your opinion I definitely care about. When I'm doing this pyramid, when I'm going through it, this mountain, do you want me to look at it through just this season, and not look at previous seasons? Or do you want me to kind of do it where I'm taking a little bit of everything and just looking at this, like essentially this moving target of who we think is truly just the top 28 or whatever the number is, quarterbacks in the NFL? And so it is a combination of like, yeah, well, Mahomes does have all these rings and this or that. Because then I just think under that logic, it's just then too hard. I just don't think that there would be that much change, quite frankly. Because again, if that was the logic, then if we're really using the past, then I don't know how 2-time MVP Lamar Jackson is behind Dak Prescott, even if Dak Prescott played a good game. Like it just doesn't make sense of how one game Dak Prescott can jump up and Lamar doesn't, playing who, I mean, like considering if we want to say what Nick Wright believes in, he believes that Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Spags, and the rest of the Kansas City Chiefs are without a doubt the best team in the NFL, head and shoulders better than everyone. So the fact that Lamar was just, a couple inches away from tying that game, doesn't that bode very, 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 very well for Lamar Jackson? Shouldn't Lamar Jackson be significantly higher? So that's why, like, I struggle with this segment. And so if I'm going to keep struggling with this segment, I want it to at least make sense to you guys. So that's why I really keep asking you questions like, how do you want me to try to view this mountain and go about it when I share my own opinion for it? Do you want me just to keep struggling to try to make sense of it? Do you want me to just focus on this season, nothing else? Or do you want me to just kind of do it where it's kind of like a weird combination? I just think the weird combination, it's just too inconsistent. I don't think that there's consistency enough, because if you're using the past and present, in no world can you put a Dak Prescott and Lamar in there. It just doesn't make sense. And I know Nick doesn't believe that either, because he doesn't think Tua is a good quarterback at all. And yet we know he's super high on Baker. We know that he thinks that Lamar is still a great quarterback. Last season, at the end of last year, during the playoffs, they did like an all-time great quarterback mountain or whatever, and Lamar was there. He considered Lamar to be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. That was his opinion. So how is Tua possibly on the same level as Lamar? That's why I can't make sense of it. That's why I struggle with it. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are below. I would love to hear them. But yeah, that's all I got for you. Let me know. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.